Welcome, everyone, to today's Enterprise Europe Network Partner event, What You Need to Know About Doing Business in Texas, specially created for our colleagues and counterparts in Slovakia and the Czech Republic to help you and your companies prepare for an international expansion to the great state of Texas. The European American Chamber of Commerce provides its members with access to transatlantic business opportunities, as well as timely and relevant information, resources, and support on matters affecting business activities between Europe and the U.S. My name is Erin McKelvey. I'm the President and CEO of the European American Chamber of Commerce in Texas, and I will be your host and moderator for today's event. This event is being recorded, and we ask that you kindly keep your microphones on mute. Q&A will be available at the end of the presentation, when we will also hear from a Czech company in Texas on her experience starting a business here. Each of us is here to bring our own member companies together for one purpose: to initiate trade, commerce, communication, and business acceleration. Many of our guests may believe that Texas is a wild frontier of cowboys, TV show characters, and oil rigs. That's all true. Let me share a few things that most Czechs and Slovaks may not know about your own heritage in Texas. There are currently almost 200,000 people with Czech, Slovak heritage in Texas. The first settlements in Texas started in the 1800s, when families came here for abundant farmland and business opportunities. Czech Slovak community centers across Texas are an important community asset in many towns and annually hold festivals celebrating your heritage in the state of Texas. There are over 12,000 descendants and current recent immigrants, I would say, in Texas who still speak the Czech language. This is a very big state. Texas is the world's 8th largest economy, and we're here to share insights on the state as a whole, as well as the basic legal, employment, and immigration points you should be aware of if you are considering a subsidiary, sales venture, or partnership in Texas. The European American Chamber of Commerce, along with our member companies here in Texas, as well as the Slovak Business Agency and the Center for Regional Development of the Czech Republic, are available to assist you. I'd like to introduce and thank our Enterprise Europe Network partners for joining the European American Chamber of Commerce Texas in hosting this special event on business in Texas. So I'd like to introduce first our Juraj Bartokovic is the head of Internationalization Department for Slovak Business Agency and representative of the Enterprise Europe Network since its launch in 2008. Juraj, would you please share a word on your agency?
Thank you, Erin, for your word, and good morning to Texas and good afternoon to everyone from Slovakia and Czech Republic. And the Slovak Business Agency as itself is the oldest specialized institution for support of SMEs in Slovakia. We've been founded in 1993, and the founders and still the members of our board are the Ministry of Economy of the Slovak Republic, Entrepreneurs Association of Slovakia, and the Slovak Craft Industry Federation. As said, we are the oldest one and probably have the widest plethora of various projects and schemes to help SMEs to grow, not just in Slovakia, but throughout the world. And Gladys, if you could change the slide, please. We basically divide our services into three groups. The non-financial ones, those are most of our projects. Those involve mostly Enterprise Europe Network since its creation in 2008. Various international projects which aim to focus on teams and the focus areas of the European Commission. And we also have a specialized startup department which sends people all over the world, US included, to various conferences and startup meetings, whether it's meeting some sponsors or whether anything else involving startups. The other ones are financial programs aimed mostly the microloans to the smallest ones, the micro and small enterprises, which is up to 50,000 euros. And we have a daughter company which deals in venture capital funds, which is called Národní holdingový fond. And we also do our fair share to a little bit mold the legal environment for SMEs in Slovakia by giving feedback from the SMEs on various topics directly to the ministries, especially our leading ministry, which is the Ministry of Economy. So just to keep the time short, that's basically everything I wanted to cover, and there's lots more. We do brokerage events, we do info seminars, we do one-on-one schoolings and aids for the SMEs. So if you're interested, go either to Slovak Business Agency.sk or MPC, which is Národné podnikateľské centrum .sk, and you will basically find everything we do provide for you.
Great, thank you so much. Now I will introduce Jitka Ryšová, who has worked in the Enterprise Europe Network for over 25 years. Currently, she heads the Enterprise Europe Network Department at the Center for Regional Development of the Czech Republic, part of the Czech Bison 3T Consortium. Jitka, please introduce the Center for Regional Development.
So, thank you very much for the introduction. Good afternoon and good morning. I'm waiting for my slide. Yeah, thank you. I will speak more about Enterprise Europe Network activities. Yes, we in the Czech Republic have the consortium of 6 partners of the Enterprise Europe Network. The consortium name is Divisonet. And we are, as the whole Enterprise Europe Network, supported by the European Commission. And in the Czech Republic, we are also supported by the Ministry of Industry and Trade of the Czech Republic. And we are involved in EN activities. We are members of thematic and sector groups of Enterprise Europe Network. We are involved in the groups mobility, sustainability, digitalization, or single market. We organize or co-organize B2B events for companies who are looking for partners abroad. For instance, we are the main organizer of so-called MBM Tourism Prague, which is regularly organized during a holiday world trade fair in spring in Prague. And we also co-organize company missions, incoming or outcoming. For instance, concerning outcoming missions, we will be involved in Women Entrepreneurs mission to Germany next month, and we were involved in the mission of German companies during trade fair for bikes in Prague in spring. We also encode profiles in partnering opportunity database of the Enterprise Europe Network. This database has nowadays more than 5,600 profiles. We promote these profiles and enable companies to use these profiles. We organize seminars, training sessions, workshops, mainly on EU issues. We provide advisory on rules of doing business abroad, and we, of course, deal with connected inquiries. And last but not least, we are specialized in cross-border provision of services and posting of workers' issues. We act as lecturers, we prepare brochures, or we provide advisory services. And on the bottom, you can see some brochures and leaflets, cover pages, and some photos from our events. And the photo is the center is our Czech women team of the Enterprise Europe Network in Prague. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. Now I'd like to introduce our speakers today. Dave Quinn is a 25-year professional in Texas business development. Super Dave Quinn, as he's known, leads the industry in the cross-section of technology and old-fashioned human connection. Super Dave has transformed his passion for helping others into a no-hassle, no-catch service that matches your business goals and company structure and needs with the perfect Texas town. His process considers his clients' needs for workforce, distribution, office space, and more. John Sigety is senior counsel at Platt Richmond in Dallas. specializing in complex business litigation for growing businesses and entrepreneurs. His expertise includes commercial transactions, intellectual property, employment, real estate, and corporate disputes. At Platt Richmond, a full-service business law firm, he also assists with entity formation, corporate governance, tax planning, and real estate transactions. Additionally, John is an expert in sports law, having written extensively on the topic and appeared as a guest on radio and podcasts. Martin Valko, a native Slovak, is founding partner of the immigration law firm of Chavez Valko LLP in Dallas. His practice focuses primarily on representing both individual and corporate clients, ranging from small businesses and startups to Fortune 500 companies and transnational corporations, including many Slovak businesses in the United States. He serves as a legal advisor to the Mexican Consulate General in Dallas and to the Slovak Embassy on U.S. immigration laws, and represents the Slovak Republic as its honorary consul to Texas. I'd like to get started with an overview and some interesting information on Texas today. Dave, I will leave the floor to you, and you can tell us what sets Texas apart from other U.S. states. Maybe, Dave, are you on mute? Did we lose him?
There we go. No, I'm here. Sorry, I was clicking buttons and I didn't want y'all to hear that. So do y'all see my opening slide, Aaron?
We do.
Awesome. Well, so hi, friends. I am Super Dave Quinn, the founder of Day One Experts and the Texas Economic Development Connection. I'm a certified economic developer. I've been in Texas, as Aaron said, more than 2 decades, helping companies expand or relocate their business to the Lone Star State. And today I get the pleasure of sharing with you exactly what and why you need to be in Texas, and then how to go about that in a very efficient manner. So we'll get started here. I just got to get my screen to change there. All right, so a little bit about the Texas, back up one slide. Sorry, guys. My computer's just slow. All right, just a little bit about the Texas Economic Development Connection. I founded this coming out of COVID in 2020 when I realized we weren't going to be able to do the marketing connecting like we normally do as economic developers face-to-face. So I created a digital platform that allowed companies to connect with communities all across the state of Texas. We do several marketing events and trade missions, and then do digital marketing, really just giving companies that are already interested in Texas a place to land, because Texas is a very complex economic environment to operate, and you have paid professionals at the local level that will help you for free, but you just didn't know about it. And so we help connect that business owner to the community or the economic developer who it's their job, they're paid to help you navigate the landscape here in Texas, whatever that might be. Doesn't mean they know everything. It means they know somebody who knows the thing, and that's who you want to connect to. And so that's really our mission, and it doesn't cost the business owner anything. Our communities pay to be part of the process, so it makes it free to the business owner of the project, which is a great way to go, I feel like. All right, so let's talk a little bit about why Texas. From a foreign investment standpoint, you can see here the numbers. More than 15 million in the civilian labor force. We're the #1 exporter for 21 years. We're a right-to-work state. It's very low cost compensation cost to work here. No state income tax. And we're continually ranked by CEOs as one of the top 10 states for doing business. And being in the central U.S., operating from Texas allows you to more efficiently operate across the globe and within the United States. And there are several incentive programs in the state to help companies do their business. Everything from the state organized Texas Enterprise Fund, the local cash grants, there's tax abatements, all of these different incentive programs that are put in place to help make sure businesses operating in Texas can be successful. As Aaron mentioned, we're the 8th largest world economy in the world. And we're just one of the 50 states in the U.S. So it's a massive economic engine here in the U.S. And so we feel like it's a great place if you want to grow your business to land in. So, and I'm not just bragging and not saying all these results. The results actually speak for themselves. In 2022, we had over 1,000 new projects announced in Texas. We had more than $44.7 billion of investment announced in the state, and that helped create more than 35,000 jobs in 2022, and we had 35 headquarters relocations in the state in 2022. Sorry, I didn't have the 2023 numbers yet, but I promise you it didn't slow down. So this is just a slide that I wanted you to understand that results really do speak for themselves here in Texas. So I'm hoping I'm making the case for Texas, and it's, you know, kind of a no-brainer. From an international trade and FDI standpoint, there's over 1,600 foreign companies doing business in Texas. This is a few of the notable ones. We're #1 destination in the U.S. for FDI capital investment for more than 2 decades. It just continues to be a place where foreign companies recognize the ecosystem that we have and invest here. And we continue to lead the nation in jobs supported by exports, with more than 1 million jobs in the state going towards companies in the export business. And we're the #1 export more than 20 years, already said that. And we continue to be #1 in the nation for high-tech exports in the last 10 years. So again, pretty good results speaking for themselves here. From a doing business, Texas ports of entry, we have over 31 ports of entry here in the state. Texas is a big state. If you turned it on its side going to the east, you would touch the Atlantic. And if you did the same thing going to the west, you would touch the Pacific. That's how big Texas is. So in fact, my son was just saying we're driving to Florida. It's going to take us just as long to get out of Texas as it is once we leave Texas to get to where we're going in Florida. So it's just a massive state. Recently, the state has committed $100 billion over the next 10 years on state roadway projects, meaning that you can efficiently move products in and around the state. And so that's a massive investment in infrastructure to help business do what it does. Recently, the EDA selected the Dallas-Fort Worth area and the Texoma, what they're calling the Texoma area, as a semiconductor tech hub. It operates 28 counties across north central Texas and into southern Oklahoma. It's led by Southern Methodist University here in Dallas. And you can see some of the industry partners there. So I think it's one of 30 tech hubs across the U.S., but North Texas here is one. And I'm moving really fast, and this is just scratching the surface. This presentation normally takes an hour, hour and a half, depending on how much detail we go. But I just wanted to kind of give you a flavor that Texas is a great place to do business in, and something you should be considering if you're coming to the U.S. for operations. One of the big questions I get asked by business owners, small and big, is about the talent pipeline. Workforce is one of the key drivers of business decisions happening right now. And you can see here, there's over 15 million people in the labor force here in Texas, very young, skilled, and very diverse. I think that always surprises people how diverse the workforce is here in Texas. Here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area alone, I can't tell you the number of different languages and companies that operate here in just the DFW Fort Worth. If you needed to find a translator for just about any language in the world, you would be able to find someone here in Dallas that could help you do that. So it's a very diverse workforce. In fact, and Texas is one of those places that people just, because there's opportunity here, if you're born here, 82% of the people, once they're born here, they don't leave. It's just that kind of place. It kind of gets into your blood and you're like, I got everything I need here. I'm not leaving. And so that means a lot of opportunity from a talent pipeline standpoint. And then you can see the total population there is 30.5 million here in Texas. And we've been this top state for population growth for almost 2 decades. One of the cool things about Texas and workforce and talent pipeline, the Texas Workforce Commission provides funding for skill training through continuing education courses throughout their community college system, meaning that if your company comes in, you can design very specific skills that you need. You can work with the local community college and your economic developer to create a training program that meets your needs and have the Texas Workforce Commission provide the funding for that. So it's something that our companies find very useful in helping drive their talent pipeline. So now let's talk about a little bit of the, most people when they come to Texas, they've heard of 5 or 6 of our major cities. As you can see here, there's over 1,200 cities, towns, villages in Texas. So it's a very complex landscape from an economic standpoint and just an operating standpoint. You can operate in urban, suburban, or rural markets. It really doesn't matter. You can find your spot here in Texas, and it really doesn't matter what industry you're in or what sector you're in. You're going to find it in Texas. So from industrial manufacturing to just if you wanted to create a project from raw land, there is raw land. There's still space available. It sounds like, man, you almost be busting at the seams. But Texas is a wide open space, and there's lots of opportunity for companies to develop here in the state. And with the point I want to make is also you have 700 economic development organizations operating in Texas. That means paid professionals whose job it is to help you expand or relocate into the state. And so connecting with those economic developers is very important because in Texas, the economic incentives and resources really come from the local level. It starts at the community level and then rolls up, and they're the ones that will help you navigate what state resources might be available to you. And especially for small to medium-sized companies, you're just going to get a lot more attention at the local level. And so if you check with an economic developer in one community and they aren't very excited about your project, it doesn't mean there's not someone right next door who'd be very excited to help you. And so by connecting with economic developers, you'll have a much greater chance of understanding where it is you need to go in Texas and who's ready and willing to offer resources to help you relocate or expand here in Texas. So it's very important. So that was my short stint of this. Again, my name is Super Dave Quinn with Day One Experts, and if you want more information, visit our website at texasedconnection.com. Or if you want to hear from real examples of people who have expanded or relocated to Texas, you can go to our Gone to Texas podcast.com. We interview business owners and we ask them questions about what their experience was like relocating or expanding or growing their business in Texas. It's an authentic look at what it's like growing a business here in Texas. It's not always perfect. We think it's pretty good and better than most, but there's still challenges that you meet. What we say is that in Texas, though, you have a community partner that's going to help you meet those challenges. And so I hope that this gives you some inspiration to reach out to your local economic developer in Texas. And if you need help connecting with them, again, I'm here as a free service to help you connect with those individuals and help you get started. So Aaron, thank you, and make it a great day.
Thank you so much, Dave. I'm also going to say what a lot of people don't realize about Texas, because it's so big. It's not only the size of Texas, but the difference, as Dave was saying, between the major cities and metropolitan areas. So many people have heard of Austin and they think that's cool and they need to go to Austin, but Austin may not be the right place for you. Houston is very chemical and oil and gas, LNG energy centric. Dallas is very different with a lot of capital markets and healthcare here, as well as Houston. And Austin has a lot of the entrepreneurship, South by Southwest and startup companies, include, even Fort Worth and San Antonio and El Paso have great startup communities. So it really is important to talk to someone, or at least come and visit and maybe see the different cities and understand the ecosystems available here before deciding where to land, because each area is very, very different from the rest. So next I'm going to welcome John Sigety with Platt Richmond, and John's going to give us some our guests an overview of the legal framework and obligations when opening a business in Texas. And I will let you get started. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Aaron. Yes, as was noted, my name is John Sigety. I'm with Platt Richmond. I am located in Dallas, and our law firm is a full-service business law firm. I mainly focus on litigation, but also our firm handles anything from corporate entity formation, tax advising, intellectual property, all sorts of things that are needed for a business when they are starting a business here. A little background for me. I spent some time last year in Bratislava and Stupava in Slovakia, also in the Czech Republic, and I loved my time there. I'm going to be going back. I went there with my son's soccer team, and so football for you, and I will enjoy being back as much as I can. So dobrý den to everybody, and dobrý odpoledne to everybody else in the Czech Republic. And Gladys, if you have my first slide. Thank you very much. Okay. So the first thing to remember when you are entering the United States market, and also in particular in Texas, is that you will be dealing with two different systems of law. You will be dealing with federal law, which encompasses the entire United States and deals with governs business income tax and self-employment tax, and many other things as well. The other thing that you will need to remember is that there are separate state law in each state. The United States is a little different and unique in that every state that you will encounter is different in terms of what state laws apply to businesses. Now, many of those state laws are similar. They extend across state lines, but as Super Dave was able to speak to, Texas is very unique in terms of the business incentives that it offers. One of the most interesting things for Texas is that there is no personal income tax in Texas, and there's no corporate income tax in Texas. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not paying federal income tax when you are dealing with that, but the fact that there is no personal income tax and no corporate income tax is a very attractive thing both for businesses and also for the individuals that you will be hiring in Texas. It's a great incentive for bringing employees to Texas and hiring here in Texas. Now, with that said, while there's no corporate income tax in the state of Texas, Texas doesn't charge a corporate income tax. It does charge what is called a franchise tax. And the difference between corporate income tax and a corporate franchise tax is that income taxes apply to profit, while franchise taxes do not. They apply to gross receipts. A franchise tax is essentially a fee that a company must pay for the privilege of doing business in a particular state or city, and it's a tax on gross receipts, not on corporate income. So in Texas, Texas is one of only 4 states that does not have business income taxes, or does not charge business income taxes, but rather charges a franchise tax. The others being Ohio, Nevada, and Washington. So now in Texas, if you are a small business and your annual gross receipts are less than $2,470,000, then you pay no franchise taxes at all. And that changes from year to year, but for the years 2024 and 2025, the threshold is $2.4 million. Businesses with annual revenues over $2.4 million pay a 0.331% franchise tax on their revenue that is attributable to Texas. So there's a lot more to this system, obviously, but I wanted to give you an overview and just set in your minds how different the federal law, when you come to Texas, you will be dealing with both federal law. Think of that as law that governs, that is applicable in every state, and then state law, which is law that is just applicable in Texas. Gladys, if you could, the next slide. Okay, so there's a lot to take in here, but there are different entities that you can form when you come to the United States and when you come to Texas in particular. One of the most common business entity formation structures in the United States is the limited liability company, the LLC. If you know anything about doing business in Texas and in the United States in general, it's likely you've heard of an LLC before. The benefits of an LLC are the flexibility to choose any business tax structure, a flexible management structure, meaning the LLC can be operated by managers or by owners. You don't have to have a board of directors, anything like that. You get the protection against liability for the individual owners. including if you are a single owner, if there's just one single owner, and there are no federal corporate taxes. The cons for this, meaning the negatives for a limited liability company, is that they are not recognized outside the United States. So you will, if you're coming into the United States, you will, many people will form a subsidiary, and that will be the LLC. There are costs to establish and maintain, and the tax preparation can be more complex. There's no perpetual existence. And in Texas, it's important to remember that it will be subject to a franchise tax. It's a very versatile business use or business entity strategy. So most people, when they come to me, are asking about forming LLCs, especially if it's a smaller company, 4 to 5 owners, something like that. I'll also go to partnerships and sole proprietorships. I kind of put these separate, but they are easy and expensive to set up here in Texas and in the United States. In fact, they are the default systems, entity structures. If you don't file to be an LLC or a corporation, you will be considered either a sole proprietorship or a partnership. They're easy and expensive to set up, and there are minimal reporting requirements, and you get pass-through taxation. And I'll talk more about pass-through taxation, double taxation in my next slide. And I hope it doesn't get too confusing. You can please reach out to me afterwards if it does. Obviously, and then I want to talk about the corporation. The corporation in the United States, liability protection is extensive. There are unlimited shareholders in a corporation, and you have a flexibility to choose a C Corp or S Corp tax structure, and your existence is perpetual. The negatives for a corporation are higher fees to establish and maintain, required annual meetings, and other strict things that you have to comply with. Now, for foreign investors, for people coming into the United States, the corporation is often one of the best choices you can make because it encourages foreign investment. It's easier for foreign non-citizens coming into the United States and investing in the United States. Now, that said, foreign nationals can still be members within an LLC, but the tax structure that is set up is a little bit different, and we can talk about that in our next slide. So again, I'm going through this very quickly. If you have any questions about these different types of entities, please reach out to me afterwards. I'll provide my email address, and I would love to talk to any of you. So Gladys, if we could do the next slide. All right. So one thing that is important to remember here in the United States is the tax structure that you select. We talked about the business entities. The difference between that and these tax structures that you can select is that you can, if you form an LLC in the United States, for example, you can elect to be taxed as an S Corp or a C Corp. And this is basically just a selection of how you are taxed by the IRS. With an S Corp, there is what is called pass-through taxation. What does that mean? If you are an S Corp, you are not taxed at the corporate level, meaning you do not pay corporate income taxes to the federal government. The taxes are just, you are just taxed, the individual members are just taxed on their personal income tax returns. If you are a C Corp, then you're subject to what's called double taxation. The company is paying taxes at the federal level, and then also the shareholders are paying taxes on the profits at the individual level as well. So that's the benefit to the S Corp. There is only single taxation, not this double taxation. Now, with an S Corp, it's a little bit more difficult. There are lots of requirements that you have to meet. And I put that here in this con section. No more than 100 shareholders are permitted. You can only have one class of stock. And then the kicker for foreign nationals, the shareholders must be U.S. citizens or legal residents. And so that would disqualify a lot of people who are on this call who are not legal residents. Now, there may be some legal residents. You may have someone who you are working within the United States who can serve as the owner of a subsidiary in the United States. And so this S Corp may be an option for you. But it's a very strict, there are very strict requirements for electing this tax structure for being taxed by the IRS. It's commonly used for sole ownerships and when there are no foreign owners. Now, a C Corp is the default tax structure, tax system for corporations being created in the United States. It is more simple. There is an unlimited number of shareholders. It's preferred when you have outside investors. And recently in the United States, there is now a flat corporate tax for corporations, for C Corps, and that is 21%. It's a little more complicated than that, but generally speaking, for corporate taxes, federal income tax, the tax rate is 21%. So it's an understandable number. With a C Corp, as we said before, the downside to that is there is double taxation. The business is taxed at the corporate level, and then the shareholders are taxed on the profits that they, or the income that they receive from the corporation. And it's more difficult and expensive to start. But it does allow for foreign ownership, reinvestment of profits, and it's very commonly used for people who have current investors and are seeking to attract investors in the future. Okay. All right. So that's my spiel a little bit on business entities and tax structures. I did want to talk a little bit about intellectual property and taxation. Intellectual property, and I can do that very quickly because I know we're going a little bit long on time here. So I wanted to talk about, there's many different things you can talk about when talking about intellectual property, but for corporations coming to the United States, trademark registration is an important one. So I just kind of started off, can a foreign company register a trademark in the United States? The answer is no, yes. But foreign entities must be represented by a U.S. licensed attorney as of August 3rd, 2019. So if you're looking to register a trademark in the United States, you have to be represented by a U.S. attorney. If you have a foreign trademark, meaning a trademark that was already registered in another country, you can file the application in advance of entering the United States market, and you have 5 years from registration to prove the mark is being used in commerce in the United States. You can also file a new trademark application. You can either show that it is currently being used or file an intent to use application stating that you intend to use it within 6 months of the date the mark is approved. Now, you have federal versus state trademark applications. You can do one or the other. The federal is a longer process, but you receive protection throughout the United States. So if you are coming into Texas, but you are looking to potentially expand beyond Texas at some point, the federal trademark application is always advisable. Now, if you're just looking to do business in Texas, then it's a quicker process and it's cheaper, but it only offers trademark protection in the United States, or in Texas, in the state itself. Gladys, my last slide. Just a quick overview of what you would need to do if you are registering a foreign trademark in the United States. I would recommend, and we could do this for you, trademark search through the U.S. Patent and Trade Office. That's the USPTO, and I put the website on there in case you want to run a search yourself. You can then the next step is file the foreign trademark application through the TEAS, the Trademark Electronic Application System. Then you will wait for a federal trademark. Due to the increased volume of applications, it could take up to 12 months, but that is something, as long as you are filing your application on a certain date, the date of registration becomes the date that you began to use it, essentially. And then you have to maintain your trademark. Use your mark in commerce, file required documents, and update the correspondence for the USPTO to contact you. And then enforce your trademark by preventing and or prosecuting any infringement. And that's something that we do at my firm. So thank you very much. I apologize if I talked for too long. Please reach out. I will leave my email address in the in the notes, and also my WhatsApp, because I know that a lot of most people in Slovakia and the Czech Republic reach out via WhatsApp. So I'll leave that in the chat. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, John. I think that's terrific information. And we always expect to go a little bit long when there's so much valuable information that people need to hear. So I'd like to now welcome Martin Valko with Chavez and Valko Immigration Law Firm. He's also the honorary consul, as we said, of Slovakia in Texas. And welcome, Martin.
Thank you, Erin. I appreciate it. Pozdravujem všetkých priateľov na Slovensku. Taky chci pozdraviť přítele v Čechách. As John, I'm sorry, Super Dave had said before John, Texas is an incredible state, especially for business. Truly, the sky is the limit, and you know, the business owners in Czech Republic and Slovakia really should take advantage of it. I came to the U.S. To Texas, especially in '91, as an exchange student, and my host family got me a shirt. I wasn't born in Texas, but I got here as soon as I could, and it's truly it holds truth to this day. I'm a dual national. I love, as much as I love Slovakia, I love the U.S. and I love what I do. I got into immigration law and founded this law firm with my law partner. We're a full service immigration law firm, and I focus on employment-based immigration and investors. Have worked with numerous Slovak and Czech companies, from startups, from family-owned businesses, all the way to large software companies out of Slovakia and Czech Republic. Startups, venture capital companies that have invested in Central European countries that are trying to start their operations in the U.S. And in Texas. It is incredibly important, you know, at least from my standpoint, is for foreign investors, foreign business owners to work with companies and lawyers such as John, to truly take advantage of their knowledge and professional advice. We are not one of the firms, kind of a jack of all trades, that I could set up your business entity and also represent you. I know some do that, but we'd like to separate those. So truly, you could be represented in each area by the professionals, whether it's business plan writers, whether it's accountants, whether it's a company like Platt Richmond. So that's one thing. If I were to highlight, it would be that, is to focus on working with professionals. And I think Super Dave said some kind of a paper professionals. You know, I would stay away from those. This really, at least for me, and this is a topic for at least an hour at conferences, but we'll try to summarize the most important visa classifications that we deal with and that are really recommended for these kind of endeavors. First thing is the ESTA, it's the visa waiver, and a B1 visitor for business. They're both for visitors for business. Both Czech Republic and Slovakia are part of ESTA, which is a visa waiver program, and all that does is requires registrations, online registration, and typically it is valid for 2 years, or then applying for a B1, B2 visa, and that's just one type. And then depending on what you are coming in for, if you're coming in for business, then at the border you would declare that you are coming in for that purpose. So it's basically used for your recon missions. It's used for companies and investors to kind of get the lay of the land, try to understand the market and meet with businesses and professionals like Dave, and then decide, you know, what they should invest in. Will it be the same type of business they are doing back home? They're just replicating that here, or will be something totally different. One thing. So, and you know, this quick trip is ideal for your meetings, conferences, trade shows, sales negotiations, even companies that are doing factory installations, for example, or trainings on a new equipment. That is often utilized. It has to be well documented, what they are doing, the fact that the salaries are being paid from abroad. It must not be regarded as working in the U.S., right? Because it would be working without authorization. Person would violate their status. It is very, very strict. Just overstaying ESTA, for example, by 1 day in the U.S. will get you canceled from the program, and you will never be able to get ESTA. You're going to have to then apply for the B1 visa. So it is incredibly efficient. You can go online, get it, and then you land at the airport, and you're dealing with Customs and Border Protection officials. One important thing is to show that you are well organized, that you're prepared, that you have your itinerary for the trip, you have your return ticket, that you don't have business cards printed and some kind of evidence of already operating in the U.S. when you are not supposed to be, because keep in mind, CBP officials at the airport, they have a right to go through your cell phone, go through your laptop, and if they cannot make a decision in about 10 seconds as you're going through the line, you are then placed in secondary inspection, and where they kind of go to town on you, right? They just basically look at everything, and then the worst thing that could happen is they put you back on the next flight, and then that's not as bad. The worst thing that could happen, they'll revoke your ESTA. They'll make you inadmissible if they somehow think that person is just going back and forth, spending 90 days in the U.S., going home to wash their laundry, and 2 days later they're back trying to max out the 90 days. So they're watching for that kind of pattern. And when that happens, then you may get punished and get it canceled, and then having to apply for the B1, B2 visa. So again, ESTA by itself, it's approved for 2 years. I think it's $20-some, pretty nominal. And then you get to use it, stay up to 90 days. Ideally, you don't want to max it out. I know some investors, some of my clients have done that, maxed out, and they've been a turnaround at the airport. So it is important not to do any violations in that respect. The visa, if you enter in the B1, you're admitted for up to 6 months. You could file for an extension if you needed. Sometimes if people do not need to return, they may file for a change of status from a B1, B2, which you cannot from ESTA. So ESTA is just very strict. You get to come in, you get to come out. The only exception there is if you were to meet a U.S. citizen spouse who would sponsor you for a green card. That really is the only exception. Other than that, you cannot extend, you cannot change from it. So if somebody's thinking maybe after I do my recon and set everything up, I'll stay, then coming in on the B1 would be advisable, where 90 days after we could then file for a change of status and get you in. On the next slide, I have E2, and then the next one is an L1 status, which might be possible. Dependents, same thing. You are basically coming in with them if they qualify, if they have ESTA, if they have a visa. When you apply for the visa at the consulate, the number one thing is to prove that you will not stay permanently, right? So it's called the preconceived intent. Everybody who is applying for non-immigrant visa at the U.S. embassies or consulates is presumed to be an immigrant. And so I tell people, and when they're applying for the visa, when they're coming in, to tell them, I left something on the stove in the kitchen back home. I'm really just coming in for a little bit and I'll be right out. So that would work. Again, guys, the officers at the border are very strict. So you have to be careful. You cannot work here. You cannot live here with that. And any salary that is received, for the businesses you're attending, for the trainings, has to be from abroad. You cannot be paid by the U.S. entity. If I could go to the next slide, please. The next slide is really the most common for us. It's a treaty investors classification, or E2. There's also an E1, but there has to be reciprocity in the treaty with the U.S. Unfortunately, neither country Czech Republic or Slovakia has that, so they have to rely on the E2 for expanding to the US, and it's really it's from moms and pops. It's for a couple of investors all the way up to larger companies, and so the requirements there, again, treaty has to exist, and they do exist. Even in the under old Czechoslovakia before '93, there was a treaty, and so they're just kind of connecting to that. The business and the applicant has to have the nationality of the treaty country, right? So it would be a U.S. business, but even that U.S. business has to be owned by at least 50% of that nationals of that country, right? So if it's a subsidiary of a foreign entity, and a lot of times it's 100%, but at the very least, if you have a U.S. partner, then that U.S. partner, U.S. citizen partner, could not be owning more than 50%. It gets pretty dicey when you are dealing with startups that are funded by venture funds, and later there's dilution. We are having to watch for that 50% mark, right? And so that is very important to be watching for that, because as soon as it drops below, then the eligibility for the visa does not exist. One thing, and it's kind of a chicken or the egg problem, the funds are invested already or are actively in the process of being invested. So a lot of times people are hesitant, saying, well, what if it doesn't work out? And unfortunately, the days where we were able to use an escrow account where we put the funds in the US in the escrow account, and then there was the release of the money was subject to the visa approval, that is no longer available. So when you come in and do your recon and you meet with John's firm, and they will set up the entity for you, and you start negotiating contracts, right? You're in the process of being invested. If you buy a vehicle, if you buy a real estate, if you buy anything that is needed for the business, even you pay John or you pay us, you pay an immigration attorney, all of that is investment that is being counted towards that total investment. It has to be a real and operating commercial enterprise, so it can't be any kind of a phantom business out there. It has to be real and operating commercial enterprise. The next requirement is that it has to be substantial. So it's a sliding scale. I always get asked questions like, what's the minimum, right? Well, it just really depends on what you're investing in, and what industry you're in. If you are one of my clients is building a 27-story residential tower right now for millions and millions of dollars. Obviously, he's also getting funds being lent to him, but he is himself putting in, I believe, $900,000 or $1 million. That's substantial, right? But if the business plan calls for $60,000 or $80,000 and you put in 20, that's not substantial. It's not going to fly. Another thing is that you're going to have to show that money is yours. You're going to have to source it to you, right? So if you somehow got to cash, to a large amount of cash, and you are unable to prove how you got to it, the idea there is, was it criminally obtained or obtained through criminal activities? You're out, right? So you're going to have to show and just source and look at bank accounts, and I owned a house. This is my ownership papers. I've sold it. I deposited that money. That money then was invested from Slovakia or Czech Republic to Texas entity. Then that's how we source it. The business plan, when it's developed, it's for 5 years, and it's requirement, especially for new businesses, unless you're buying an existing business with historical financial data. It has to be the business has to be creating and earning more than marginal profit. So it's got to be more than just for you, the investor or the family, to be able to sustain and live on it. And then you have two types of employees. If you have an individual investor, that person is in a position to develop and directing business. If you have employees coming in, so recently we had a company that a couple of months ago that it was a company itself. So company was an investor, subsidiary of a Slovak company was an investor, and they were bringing in a CEO in a executive or supervisor position. So that person itself wasn't the individual investor, the company was, and then they were coming in an executive supervisory position. Or then you can have people with essential skills, right? So you could have other employees coming in. All of that has to be defined. You have to just lay out the job duties just to make sure that everything is, nicely tied up. And then at the end, you also have to include that at the end of concluding your business enterprise, that the person intends to return back home. That doesn't mean that you have to maintain house at home, and the federal regs allow for, even if the person had sold off and liquidated everything, as long as the statement is there that the intent is to depart, then you get to come back. There's a difference in reciprocity. So Slovakia has the 24 months or 2-year visa validity. Czechia was able to negotiate a 5-year or 60-month visa validity. So when the business visa, where the application gets approved, you get that approval for that period. However, the admission into the U.S. is for 2 years. So anybody, even from countries that have reciprocity for 3 months, when you come in, you get in for 2 years. In terms of processing, it's very jurisdictional. So if you're in the U.S. changing status, it's all done by USCIS, which is the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. You change status, you get to be here for 2 years. I have clients that have been here for 20 years. Keep on extending it. And that's kind of preference. If person plans to traveling back and forth, it's applying for the visa in at the consulate or at the embassy. That way, you don't have to do it again after you, or should you leave after your change of status in the U.S. Processing varies on embassy availability. Embassies tend to change their processes. So Slovakia, for example, now has an E2 visa unit at the Slovak embassy has been good compared to some other posts. But now you basically send them the required documentation via email, and they'll go through it, and then they'll decide, if that person had ESTA before, they may even waive the visa interview requirement, or they'll call him in after they were able to review the documentation he submitted. Dependents, spouse, and children under the age of 21 are able to come in. Spouses are now authorized to work incident to status. So as soon as they are admitted in E2 status, they're able to work, whether it's for the entity, with the spouse investor, or anywhere else. They're basically a free agent on the U.S. market. And then they can even attend school incident to status, right? So, and even the E2 investor, if it's not, doesn't lead to a degree, but it's, you're taking a class or two. Of course, the children, the schools here are incredible. Various school districts, again, depending on which you choose, where you settle, they go to school, for free. I mean, you're paying local taxes. But they are here in school up to the age of 21. Restrictions, you are working for the sponsoring entity only. Now, if you're an individual investor, we get a lot of questions. Well, okay, but I just don't want to be tied down to this food and beverage business or the construction business. I really want to do different things. There's a way to do that. There's a way to establish a holding company and then have subsidiaries that are doing different things. Because if you just set up one and this is all you're doing, then you may be just kind of stuck. All of that could be, of course, amended with another filing. If I could get a next slide, please. And that's all right. And so the second most, I guess, favorite is an L1 intracompany transferee classification. I wouldn't think that we've used some of these for the Czech and Slovak companies expanding to the US, but not as much as the E's. E's are, although they may take a little bit longer, they are more flexible, I would say. This is for, I would say, small to, or the medium to larger companies that are well established. They have a well established hierarchy. and it's just basically transferring your executives, your managers, or specialized knowledge workers. Executive managers are classified as L1A. The specialized knowledge workers are L1Bs. And basically, the requirement there is that the U.S. company has at least one foreign qualified or company with qualifying relationship, and that is typically defined with the same or similar ownership and control structure. The person, the company is either already doing business or will be doing business. The person coming over has worked in the company abroad for one of the last 3 years prior to coming to the U.S. And the companies have to exist. So sometimes I have people coming over and they're just saying, okay, so I may apply for a green card because this leads to a green card if everything is there. But that foreign company, that foreign entity has to continue to exist and do business until that person's green card is approved, right? So often they'll ask, well, I think we're going to have to shut down and this isn't going to work, then it may not work. Typically, if you have the U.S. company that have been doing business for more than a year, you can ask for more than just a year validity. And in terms of going about this, here, this is not jurisdictional. So first step is applying and filing a petition with the USCIS, with the Immigration Service, and upon approval of the petition, and the person applies for the visa at the embassy. Maximum on the L1A, so executive or manager, can get 7 years, and that's done in parts. So it's never a full 7 years. It could be 2 or 3 and 2 and 3, or 3, 3 and 1. And the L1B specialized knowledge worker, somebody who's an accountant, for example, and they have just a truly intimate knowledge of the company because it gets scrutinized. They kind of drill down and see, well, how come this position cannot be held by a U.S. worker in the U.S.? And so you really want to advocate and show, well, you can't just pick up some ordinary Joe off the street who's going to be doing the job. This person has done this for 15 years and knows everything about the company, and so they can come in an L1B, and then they are limited to 5 years. In terms of processing, that first step with USCIS, with Immigration Service, you could do it very quickly. You can do it at 15 days under the premium processing, and then you apply for the visa. Again, similar to the E2, spouse and kids get to be here. Spouse is employment authorized, and then the kids get to attend school up to the age of 21. Restriction: you can only work for that petitional company, an employer. But the advantage here is, compared to E2, which does not lead to permanent residence or a green card, here, if it continues, both companies continue to exist, then the person, not the L1B, but the executive or manager, could jump on and apply for a green card. It really depends on how well the business is done. And so that's basically what would I say. Now there's a couple of other options. So there's only a handful of options when trying to work in the U.S. Another one is an H-1B, a specialty occupation position, really for more established companies, and that is limited to caps. So there's a limitation every year. So anything else you guys would want to? I'll drop my email as well. I think Aaron could make it available, and I'll be available to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. That was great. There was a lot of
A lot of information.
lot of information. And as I think Gladys put in the chat, we will share the slides with everyone. We're just going to go ahead and keep going so that those of you who want and can stay online, please feel free to do so. We'd like to actually bring in, I don't know if we'll really have time for Q&A, but we'll see. But we'd like to bring in a guest, Andrea Hritsovska, CEO and founder of HR for You Solutions in Austin. And Andrea, if you are available.
Yeah, I am. Thank you
Great.
very much, Erin. Thank you.
Thank you for showing up and for staying. And we'd love to hear about your experience briefly. What you why you decided on Texas, what your company does, and maybe you can just share some of that with our guests.
Thank you so much for the word. So make it very like time efficient. We have the company owned together with my husband, existing in Slovakia over 10 years. It's a consulting business, and our specialization is the staffing, recruitment, learning and development, and coaching, especially business coaching, leadership coaching. And why Texas? Of course, after I would say, deep analysis, especially that my husband is specialized for the pricing strategies and comparison and a lot of analysis. Texas comes as a first level or first position in different kinds of angles. And that's not only from the taxation or business point of view or from the possibilities, but also we were considering the things that were not mentioned probably, but comparing the lifestyle, the school systems, but also things like sunny days, for instance. Probably many of you do not know, but Bratislava in average has like 183 sunny days in average. So we really like the sun, and I believe the Czech Republic is pretty much the same. So Oregon wouldn't be the chance for us, for instance. So these are the things, if you are really like tend to move and bring the whole family with you, these are all the, I would say, criteria you need to look into that. And what was also very, very important for us, as I've mentioned, was the school district, because we brought our kids with us. So we are very, very satisfied with the school system and the school districts here in Texas. We are localized in Austin, and plus also like being and feeling secure. So this was also another criterion which I found Texas as the best state to move.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask what,
Sure.
what was your welcome like when you arrived?
Oh my God, it was fantastic. Of course, we went through the whole process. Let me start from the very beginning with Martin Valko, who really, and his whole team was very, very helpful establishing the company. They advised us also, the business lawyers, and all the like business processes that has to be done in a proper way were done. So I was very, very satisfied. And of course, we keep the cooperation still. Furthermore, as a consultant, used to network, I went to the downtown and we were so much welcomed in Austin, in Houston, and in Dallas. So all these three cities, we started to like visit. All people were very helpful, very welcoming, and it's very simple. I found it very simple, much more easier than in Central Europe to openly talk how people can help and how we can help each other and find mutual beneficial ways to cooperate.
That's great. I really appreciate that. Because Texas is a very welcoming state. We have members from other states who say that they were just so surprised when we come here, because people do business with a handshake and they will help you, and they're very open and kind in general. So, and very great at networking and giving you connections. Let's see. We had a question here: which strategy you followed to have clients in Texas?
Okay, my biggest advice would be, if you really mean it seriously, come here and be here for your clients, do the network. So the networking and making the true like face-to-face contacts. I mean, it's not anymore must like stay online. and Texans are very welcoming and warm people. So I really enjoy, staying with them.
And can I add to that as well? I'm sorry, I'm not.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I feel like there are many opportunities just to get together and meet people face to face, and I think me, Dave, and Martin are obviously, we can provide and advise you on professional things, immigration, business formation, tax stuff, economic development, local, all that kind of stuff. But we are also sources for contacts. If you, at least for me, if you want to reach out and just network with me and let me know what your business does, what you are looking for, who you might be looking to contact in Texas, or really, any state in the United States, please feel free, because I mean, we network as well. I don't just sit in an office and provide, do legal stuff and research and that kind of stuff. I network, and we can help you with that type of thing as well.
Thanks, John.
Connecting, that kind of thing.
And that's what we do as a European American Chamber of Commerce, is put on networking events and connect our members in Houston, Dallas, and Austin together, and give a platform and opportunity for you to meet like-minded businesses and people who enjoy working with Europe. So I don't know if there's another question we need to that really stands out to me. I think we've pretty much gone over the time. Yitka and Juraj, would you like to briefly finish up and say how your agencies can help people as well?
Yeah, as I said, I explained our activities, etc. But I would like also to speak about one Czech company. Unfortunately, she can't participate today because she's they are in Italy. But they asked me to introduce them briefly and their experience in Texas. So it's the Czech family-owned company, which is dealing with various types of valves and fittings for which can be used in many different sectors, for thermal energy, water utilities, paper industry, data centers, and many others. They started their activity in Texas in 2017. But unfortunately, they were not successful, so they decided to interrupt these activities. But the situation has changed, and 2 years ago, they renewed their activities, and it's fine that they are now successful. So this family business now owns a warehouse with their products, and they also are good in the thing that they adjust their deliveries according to the wishes of their end clients. So they asked me to speak very briefly about this, so that's it. But unfortunately, I'm not so well informed about the company.
That's okay. I think that's great. That's kind of the spirit that people should have. If you might start out on the wrong foot, but they tried again and they got back.
Yeah, that's it. That's interesting.
And you're right.
Thank you again for the word. And yep, as Yitka mentioned, the Enterprise Europe Network in itself provides a whole plethora of services that can get you the first contact, either in Texas or anywhere in the world, for that matter, as we are on each and every continent, I think, except of Australia, but we are on New Zealand with the Enterprise Europe Network, as I've been informed lately. So we can get you the first contact and first meetings arranged. There have been some success stories. For example, a few months ago, my colleague arranged a company visit from Slovakia to several Portuguese companies, and we basically can do the same for you anywhere in the world, Texas included. But there are various other ways as well in Slovakia as in Czech Republic. There are ministries of foreign affairs in both countries which provide company missions. There is, for example, in Slovakia, there is also And I have to mention that although they provide very similar services to us, there is Sario, which is a direct subsidiary of the Ministry of Economy, which deals in foreign direct investments, either to Slovakia or from Slovakia as well, which can help you establish contacts. And there is also a bank called Exim Banka, which can provide you loans and guarantees to get you to a state where you can invest somewhere around the world. So yeah, as for the shortness of time, that would be probably a seminar in itself or a webinar. But yeah, Enterprise Europe Network can get you the first contacts basically anywhere in the world, either through events, either through direct contacts like you are in the European American Chamber of Commerce and various other 600 plus organizations all over the world, which they tend to have several hundred other contacts just among themselves. So yeah, if you multiply that, that's basically several thousand companies you can get to in an instant.
Exactly. And just so everyone knows, the European American Chamber of Commerce Texas, as well as our sister chapters in the Carolinas and New York, form a consortium of 3 chambers of commerce who are part of the Enterprise Europe Network. And so we are the only Enterprise Europe Network partner in Texas. And it's been less than a year. It's been a great experience. We've met just amazing people, and we do our best to help companies in their questions, and to put that out to our membership in case they know people or would like to be in contact with the companies in Europe. So that Enterprise Europe Network is a platform of the European Commission to support small and medium-sized enterprises in their efforts to expand around the world. So we're enjoying this interaction quite a bit. So there is one company question in the chat, and maybe John can answer that offline. I love the idea of an interactive beer bar, so bring it on. There's lots of great beers in Texas, and we can always use some excellent Czech beers here. So I think I'll wrap it up at that point. I thank you all who stayed on with us, and I really believe in we're not going to stop on the hour. If we've got more great information to share, even if some people have to leave, that's fine. And but I want to thank our speakers, especially Martin Valko, John Sigety, and Super Dave Quinn for sharing their time and their insights and expertise with all of you today. Thank you to Andrea as well for coming on and sharing her insights. And thank you, Gitka and Uri, for sharing information and for hosting this event with us today. And with that, I think I will call it a wrap.